Hey guys, how's it going? It is Kara here with another Honkai Star Rail video. And in today's video, I want to talk about the most effective ways to use your Trailblaze energy here in this game. And as I've gone down this rabbit hole, this is actually an incredibly complex topic. And I think most people don't want to be overwhelmed with a ton of numbers and all the specifics here. This was a lot to take in, and I want to just make this as simple as possible so you can actually have actionable things to take away from this video and are not bored by just a wall of numbers here on the screen and getting hyper specific about it. I just want to give you guys the bullet points about this. I think the best way to start is going to be why this even matters. And the big thing is going to be looking through this, you can actually waste a lot of energy. There's actually massive gains here from just using your energy appropriately on the right things at the right times. And then also I do want to highlight too the opportunity cost of just being stronger faster, which is during Forgotten Hall, when you beat 15, then you get Memory of Chaos, and Memory of Chaos resets every 2 weeks. So the stronger you are, the faster you can take this on, the faster you can beat this and get to Memory of Chaos, and then actually get those bi-monthly rewards as soon as possible. So those are the two benefits for actually caring about this and doing this correctly. Now let's talk about how to actually do this effectively, because we got to weigh the pros and cons of when to actually use the energy, because this is an important concept too, which is based on your equilibrium level is going to determine how much rewards you get for the same amount of energy. So I'm equilibrium level 3. When you get to Trailblaze level 50, that's when you get to equilibrium level 4, and then you'll get better rewards. Let me show you where specifically. So it's going to be in this section here. As you probably noticed when you hit Trailblaze level 40, or if you're about to hit Trailblaze level 40, a big, like very obvious noticeable increase is going to be in the Cavern of Corrosion, where you can finally hit 5-star pieces of gear from using this energy. And notice how the energy doesn't go up. It's just the rewards go up because you are now at that Trailblaze level. The important thing to think about is going to be what the rewards do when you're at equilibrium level 3 versus equilibrium level 4, and if there's actual differences in the amount of efficiency you get when you're at equilibrium level 4 versus equilibrium level 3. This is where it can get incredibly tedious and incredibly number crunching, but I've gone through it and I can give you guys the general vibe here when it comes to what the best thing to do is in order of simplest to most complicated. And then I'll have an infographic breaking down basically what to do if you don't want to get into the nuance there, because it does get pretty subjective later on when it comes to Cavern of Corrosion, for example. So this is the easiest one. Echoes of War is just math problem. Do you have enough experience to hit 50 within this week? If yes, do that. And if not, obviously farm it at that time and then just wait until next week. Or maybe 2 weeks from now, because if you're free to play and not refreshing, it's going to take 18 days. So then next, the easiest one is going to be Stagnant Shadow. This one right here is good to farm at equilibrium level 3 and equilibrium level 4, because at equilibrium level 3 you get 3 of them per 30 energy, whereas at equilibrium level 4 you get 4 of them per energy. That's a 33% increase, but as you'll see, there's going to be other parts of this that get a way bigger increase, so this is actually pretty good to farm. Also, this is pretty impactful on your character because this is all going to affect your base stats. And it's also going to give you the ability to get higher level traces and stuff. So you absolutely need to do this. Safe to do at equilibrium level 3. Okay, so next is going to be Calyx Golden. And before we get into the specifics here, I do want to talk about my thought process on when it comes to beating the content here. Really, the only thing you need to be able to do at this stage of the game is have a team of 4 that can beat all the stuff available. So it means simulated universe. It can farm all this stuff if you want to. And that's it. Forgotten Hall, if you're not able to push this and beat past Forgotten Hall 15 and get into Memory of Chaos at this stage, there's no point in farming this because you get a higher value later and you're not getting extra rewards by beating this early. These rewards are always going to sit here. They're waiting for you to do that, so you might as well wait until the energy is most efficient. Then you're going to actually hit Forgotten Hall. I think for most people, that's going to be Trailblaze level 50, maybe even Trailblaze 60. Like as you're going through 50, throughout that time period, that's when you're going to start to target Forgotten Hall and Memory of Chaos for most people. Also, this is a pretty negligible amount of power increase, and it takes a ton of energy to be able to actually increase the power of your characters. And as you're leveling up your character, you get quite a bit of this as you're going through and getting your Trailblaze level up. Every other level, you're going to get about 10 to 15 of these, and that's quite a bit, of both of these. So keep that in mind that I think, yes, this is one of the lower percentage increases. So for example, I was saying farm Stagnant Shadow because it's only a 33% increase, whereas I'm saying avoid this one, even though it's a 20% increase when you go from 3 to 4, but you get it from other sources and it might not necessarily be needed. Whereas the only way to get this stuff is going to be through Stagnant Shadow. That is why, even though it's a higher percentage increase when you get to E4, that it's still worth it to just farm this, not the golden ones here. And then credits is something that you can farm in the open world, not worth ever farming here in the Bud of Treasures. That is my opinion on Calyx Golden here. Next is going to be Crimson. This is, if there's anything to take away from this video, this is the most important section of this, where it is a massive difference in the ability to farm this stuff when you are equilibrium level 4. This is the most important thing to take away from this, is that you're going to want to wait and farm this when you are at equilibrium level 4, because the percentage increase is like 100%, because you get a higher chance of getting the blue. Right now, you have a chance at a blue, you get a guaranteed chance at a blue, and you get a small chance of a purple at this stage. That is why the increase in efficiency is way higher in this section here than any other section in the game. So this is why you're going to want to spend the time that you're farming in equilibrium level 3, avoiding this as much as you can. You can argue that, yes, it's a nice boost for like one character. For example, a lot of people have Seal, and Seal is just such a hyper carry. And in this section of the game, you really should be, in my opinion, focused on only 4 characters, that it might be worth it to level up that one character in Seal, even with her traces. Avoid doing this as much as you possibly can, because the value increase is so much higher at equilibrium level 4. Okay, Cavern of Corrosion. Let's just talk about the objective facts here first, and then we'll talk about the subjectivity of this, because I think there's going to be a lot of variance on opinions when it comes to Cavern of Corrosion and Simulated Universe. And I'll give you guys my thoughts on this here in a second, but let's just start with the facts. So at equilibrium level 3, you get a guaranteed 1 5-star piece, whereas at equilibrium level 4, you get potentially 2. So you get 1 guaranteed, and then like a 50% chance to get another one. So that's a massive increase here. But where the potential subjectivity comes on when you should actually farm this is because it is such a variance. It has the biggest potential upside, but also could be completely useless. It's very RNG dependent. So in the initial point, I think it's really worth, actually, the second you hit level 40, worth farming this, especially because all the content just got a little harder when you're at equilibrium level 4, so you need the more power. Then the big thing is, I think people over farm this. They over prioritize this early when you could just wait until equilibrium level 50 and farm that later and get the chance of the 50% boost of getting another piece per your 40 energy. And I think that's the biggest difference there, because it's not dumb to just farm it, period. You can't get away, in my opinion, just not farming this, because the content gets so much harder that you're going to want to have the extra power of these 5-star pieces. And of all these increases, I would argue that this is probably the most impactful increase. What I would recommend doing is focusing on the objective stat boosts, like making sure all your characters have, like, for example, the 5-star piece of the attack. Try to get a 5-star attack percentage boot. I like to focus on the Musketeer of Wild Wheat because the game likes to give us this piece of gear. It's very generic. As you get better and better gear, what you can do is you can just move it to the next character. We're going to need 8 characters anyway, so you just move it to the next character. So I think it's totally worth doing that. Then another thing to consider too is I really like farming Simulated Universe over Cavern of Corrosion a lot of the times, because both nodes are just so impactful. At World 3 and World 6, they're both very good, and what I like about them is that it's not like one or the other. Whereas a lot of Cavern of Corrosion, it's like, okay, I really like Wild Wheat, but I really don't like the healing one. Or I really like Brilliant Stars, but I really don't like Guard of Withering Snow, for example. Whereas with Simulated Universe, you get to pick, you get to go, okay, I really like this one, and I really like Fleet of the Aegis, for example. Or I can go to World 6, and I really like the Architects one for the defense, and I also really like the Crate Rave one. That is one of the things to keep in mind when it comes to farming this, is that this is good value. One thing to also keep in mind is that each week you get, I believe, about 4 of these, and it can save you some energy. So you can just farm those. Maybe you don't need to actually use your Trailblaze Power for that. In conclusion here, I got this infographic I have prepared. So it's just a simple way to looking at this, understand this as much as possible. So if you're looking at what you need to farm. Stagnant Shadow is great at E3. I would say it's mid at E4, not because it's bad to farm at E4, but because there's other potential things that are way better at E4 that maybe you need to loop around and farm this, but prioritize these other things first at E4. Then we have Caverns and Corrosion. I would say it's mid at E3 because you can overfarm it. You want to just hit that sweet spot. You get a couple pieces you need and then call it until E4, and then it gets better. Calyx Crimson, I think, is absolutely terrible at E3, but amazing at E4. It's just such a big disparity between E4 and E5 that I'm going to go with green here on E4, but terrible on E3. This is the big takeaway from this video. Do not farm it at E3. Golden is mid at all stages because it's not ideal. You get a lot of this just passively through playing the game. So if you can focus on these other things and then you just have the energy and you need to spend it, or you're going to overcap, then you can farm it here. But I think it's pretty mid at both stages of the game. Then Simulated Universe, I think it's way better at E4, obviously, because it's the exact same concept that I had with Cavern of Corrosion. Really no need to double down on it. If anything, if this would be like a lighter version of yellow, because I think it's better than Cavern of Corrosion, even at E3, because the nodes are more valuable. But you can also take away a little bit because it's so much harder to hit what you actually want to hit on that, because there's more variance in the primary stat. So I don't want to get too in the weeds here. This is supposed to be simple. And then lastly, Echo of War is by far the easiest, where will you hit 50 this week? If yes, E4. If no, E3. And both are green because obviously this is just the best thing you can possibly farm. You only get 3 of these per week. Might as well use them. There's in no world do you go, I don't want to waste the 90 energy on this. So it's always green. It's just the big differentiator is going to be, do you hit 50 that week or not? So that is why it's green on both of those there. It just really depends on where you're at on the timeline. Now that we just went over the decisions on what you could potentially do with your Trailblaze power, I think another big decision to make on your account is going to be how to use your self-modeling resin. This is the most rare resource in the entire game, and so making the right choice is super important. So I made an entire video breaking down how to use your self-modeling resin. You can check it out right here.